There is one sentence I want to say to you, and I want you to hear it in full before you decide what you think of it. Every additional unit of visible effort you have put into being chosen, by a man, by a job, by a friend group, by an aesthetic, by the version of yourself you are trying to become, has, in almost every case, made you less attractive to the very thing you were trying to attract. I know that is going to sound wrong. I know it goes against everything you have been told. I know that the entire self-improvement internet, for the last 10 years, has been telling you the opposite. Want a better body, train harder. Want a better partner, raise your standards. Do the affirmations, hire the matchmaker, optimize your profile. Want a better career, hustle, network, apply more, never stop showing up. The logic of the modern young woman's life is that more input creates more output. The harder you push, the more you get. In most domains, that logic is correct. It works for academics, for athletics, for accumulating money up to a point, for building skills. The pathways for those things are linear. You put in effort, you receive a result. The curve goes up to the right. In the domain of being chosen, however, the curve does not go up to the right. The curve, after a certain point, inverts. You put in effort and you get less back. You raise the intensity, and the response cools. You optimize harder, and the magnetic woman in the room, the one who is doing almost nothing, walks away with everything you were working for. I want to give you the next 30 minutes. I want to do something specific. I am going to walk you through, slowly and carefully, why the rule inverts. I am going to give you the actual mechanism in plain language with no spiritual mystification. I am going to name the 4 ways your effort is being read against you. And then I am going to give you the reverse protocol, the protocol that explains what magnetic women are actually doing, which, when you finally see it laid out, is going to make you furious for about an hour, and then quietly free for the rest of your life. This is, in my experience, the most useful video I have ever filmed on this channel, because it reframes a problem that I think almost every woman watching is silently exhausted by. The problem is that you have been working very hard, by every available metric, and the world has not, in proportion to your effort, given you back what it should have. You suspect in the quiet hours that something is wrong with you. I am here to tell you that nothing is wrong with you. The premise of the effort itself is wrong. We will fix the premise tonight. Before we go any further, I want to acknowledge that what I am about to say will, for some of you, sound like permission. Permission to stop trying. Permission to give up. That is not what I am offering. I am not telling you to do less in your life. I am telling you that the kind of effort you have been making, the visible, leaning, performative kind, has been costing you the very thing you wanted. There is a different kind of effort, an interior, slow, almost invisible kind, that will get you the thing. We are going to spend tonight learning the difference between the two. The first kind is exhausting and counterproductive. The second kind is restful and effective. You have been doing the first kind for a decade. We are going to walk you back into the second. Put me on while you do skincare. Walk while you listen. Welcome to the Femme frequency. Let us begin. Let me lay out the conventional wisdom, because I want to be fair to it. I do not want to set up a straw version of the advice you have been given and knock it down. I want to take the strongest possible version of the advice, the version a smart older sister would actually tell you at 23, and show you why it still fails in this domain. The strongest version of the conventional wisdom goes like this. To be a high-value woman, you should invest in yourself. Develop your career, train your body, curate your wardrobe, read widely, cultivate hobbies, become interesting, become accomplished, become the kind of woman a high-quality man would want to date, the kind of company senior executives would want to hire, the kind of friend other women aspire to keep. When you become this woman, the rewards will follow. You will not have to chase. You will be the one chosen. That advice contains a lot of truth. I am not going to tell you that career development is bad. I am not going to tell you that reading widely is a waste of time. The investments in yourself are real investments. They produce real returns. The problem is what you are doing in your head while you make them. There are two women who can engage in the same external behavior, same job, same workout schedule, same reading list, same wardrobe. From the outside, they are identical. From the inside, one of them is doing all of it for herself because she is curious about the version of herself who has these capabilities. The other is doing all of this for an audience because she has computed that this is what a desirable woman looks like, and she is hoping the audience will eventually deliver the reward. Those two women, despite doing identical things, are operating on completely different frequencies. The first woman is gradually becoming someone. The second woman is gradually performing someone. The men in the room cannot, in most cases, articulate the difference. They just feel it. The first woman attracts. The second woman does not. The energetic distinction is what we are about to spend the rest of this video taking apart. Here is the part you have been mistraining yourself on. The conventional advice tells you to do the things. It does not tell you which of the two women to be while you do them. As a result, almost every smart, ambitious young woman I know is doing the right external actions in the wrong internal posture. She is doing the work, and the work is being read by the room as performance. And the room is responding accordingly. The room is responding to the performance, not to the woman. You have been very obediently following the recipe. The recipe was incomplete. The missing ingredient was the only ingredient that mattered. I want to give you the actual mechanism, because I think mystery is a poor teacher. If you understand what is happening physically, you will be able to fix it. If I only tell you to be more confident or radiate higher energy, you will nod along and change nothing. Here is the mechanism, plainly. Human beings are extraordinarily good at reading other human beings' nervous systems. We do this constantly, mostly unconsciously, and we do it within seconds. The technical name for this is neuroception, a term coined by the polyvagal researcher Stephen Porges. Your nervous system at any given moment is in one of a few possible states. It is regulated, or it is in low-grade fight, or it is in low-grade flight, or it is in freeze, or it is in fawn. Other people pick this up before they have processed your face. They pick it up from your micro expressions, your breathing pattern, your shoulder height, the tension in your voice, the speed of your blink. 1,000 variables you are not consciously controlling. When you are visibly trying, your nervous system is, in almost cases, in low-grade fight or flight. Your body is in a slight state of effortful activation. The pupils are slightly different. The breathing is slightly higher in the chest. The voice is slightly faster. The energy reads to anyone in the room as effortful. There is a phrase Esther Perel uses in her book, Mating in Captivity, published in 2006, which I think is the clearest formulation of the problem I have ever read. She writes that desire needs distance. By distance, she does not mean physical distance. She means a kind of psychological room, the sense that the other person is not entirely fused with you, the sense that there is a self there to be moved toward. When you are visibly trying, that distance collapses. You are not standing in your own gravity, you are leaning. The leaning is what reads as unattractive. Attraction, in its underlying mechanism, is not about how impressive you are. It is about whether the other person feels pulled toward your gravitational field. A gravitational field requires a center. The center is a self at rest. When you are visibly trying, the self has left its center and is reaching out toward the other person. There is no longer anything to be pulled toward. There is just a reaching arm. The room reads the reaching, and instinctively the room pulls back. This is the mechanism. It is not metaphysical. It is not spiritual. It is the unromantic neurophysics of how human nervous systems read each other in real time. The woman who is doing nothing visible has a self at rest in the center of her gravitational field. The woman who is doing everything visible has dispersed her gravity into 100 small reaches outward. The first woman is, mechanically, more attractive. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. You will start to watch other women in public spaces and identify within 5 seconds which of the two states they are in. You will soon afterwards start to feel which of the two states you are in. The recognition of your own state is the first step of any repair. I want to be specific about the failure modes, because abstraction does not change behavior. Let me give you the 4 most common ways the modern young woman's effort is being read against her by the room she is trying to win. The first failure mode is what I will call audition energy. Audition energy is what happens when, on a date or in a meeting, you are demonstrating yourself rather than being yourself. You are itemizing your interests. You are bringing up your accomplishments slightly too early. You are referencing the book you read last week, not because the book is relevant to the conversation, but because you want him to know you are the kind of woman who reads that book. The other person feels this almost immediately. They feel that they are being shown a portfolio rather than meeting a person. They retreat, not because the portfolio is bad, because being shown a portfolio is exhausting. Nobody falls in love with a portfolio. The second failure mode is what I call pre-emptive accommodation. Pre-emptive accommodation is when you adjust your preferences before the other person has even expressed theirs. He suggests, "Dinner, you say, wherever. I do not mind, whichever place is easiest for you." He texts at 6 in the evening. You reply at 6:04. He mentions casually that he likes a certain kind of music you find yourself. Within a week, having put that music on at home, you think you are being easy to be with. He is registering, at a level he cannot articulate, that you do not appear to have preferences of your own. And so there is nothing for him to discover about you. The mystery has been preempted by your eagerness. Mystery is not a strategy. Mystery is what naturally exists between two people who have separate inner lives. You have, in your eagerness, deleted yours. The third failure mode is what I call validation seeking through achievement. This one is sneaky because it looks virtuous from outside. You take the job, you do the work, you get the promotion. You post about the promotion. The work is real. The achievement is real. But somewhere inside, the engine driving the achievement is not the curiosity to do the work. The engine is the imagined approval of an audience. Your colleagues feel this. Your friends feel this. The man you are dating feels this. They cannot quite name it. They just sense that something inside you is performing, even when you are alone. They suspect that you would do anything to be seen as impressive, which makes you, paradoxically, less impressive. The most magnetic people in any room are the people who are clearly not performing for that room. The room can tell. The fourth failure mode is the most painful to name. I am going to call it preloaded grievance. Preloaded grievance is when you arrive at a new situation, a new date, a new job, a new friendship, already carrying a low-grade resentment from all the previous situations that did not give you what you tried for. You do not know you are carrying it. You think you are starting fresh, but the resentment is in your face. It is in the slightly defensive thing you say when he is 15 minutes late, when in fact he was held up by traffic and is perfectly sorry. It is in the way you, 3 weeks into a new job, are already convinced your manager has not noticed how hard you are working. The resentment leaks. People can feel it. They retreat, not because you are wrong about being undervalued in the past, but because nobody wants to be the next person to disappoint a woman who is already braced for disappointment. The bracing scares them away. The bracing creates the very abandonment it was protecting against. This is the cruelest of the 4 loops. I want to say something about all 4 of these failure modes together. They are not individually a sign of a broken woman. They are, in fact, the rational adaptations of a smart woman who has tried very hard and not been rewarded in proportion to her effort. The failure modes are intelligent responses to a frustrating world. The problem is that the responses, taken together, have become the very thing producing the frustration. The woman who has been ignored learns to demonstrate herself harder, and the demonstration is what is now causing the ignoring. The woman who has been disappointed learns to brace, and the bracing is what is now generating new disappointment. The loops are self-reinforcing. You cannot think your way out of them, because the thinking is happening signs inside the loop. You can only break the loops by interrupting the underlying nervous system state, which is what the reverse protocol I will give you in a few minutes is designed to do. Now, I want to describe in some detail what magnetic women are actually doing internally. I have spent a lot of time watching them. I have asked them, when I was allowed to, what is happening in their heads. The answers are almost always disappointing, in the sense that they reveal there is no trick, no script, no secret operating manual. There is only a different internal posture, which I will try to describe. The first thing they are doing is, almost without exception, being more interested in their own internal experience than in the experience of the person across from them. That sounds like the worst possible piece of dating advice. It is, in fact, the most underrated piece of dating advice in the world. A magnetic woman at dinner with a man she likes is not primarily watching his face to see if he likes her. She is paying attention to her own body, her own reactions, her own hunger, her own boredom or curiosity or amusement. She is the audience for her own evening. He is allowed to enter that evening if she enjoys him, but the evening does not exist for his benefit. The evening exists for hers. This single internal shift, when you can hold it, changes everything. He feels suddenly that there is a woman across the table from him, rather than a face that is reading his face. He has to do some work to enter her world, rather than her world doing the work to enter his. The light direction in the conversation inverts. He becomes the one leaning. She becomes the one being leaned toward. This is the entire game. The second thing they are doing is they are not, in any visible way, optimizing for him in the moment. They are not changing the way they hold their wine glass to look more elegant. They are not adjusting the way they laugh. They are not modulating their voice. They are letting themselves take up exactly the amount of space they would take up if no man were in the room. The man can sense this. He can sense that the woman across from him is not, in real time, calibrating against him. The lack of calibration is what reads as confidence. It is also what reads as desirability. It is the rarest thing in modern dating, because almost every other woman he has had dinner with has been, to some degree, calibrating. The third thing they are doing is they are not waiting for the resolution of the evening. They are not anchored to whether he texts the next day. They are not anchored to whether this becomes a relationship. They have, somewhere along the way, made internal peace with the fact that this evening is either going to be one of many good evenings, or it is going to be one of many forgotten evenings, and that the universe is not so unjust as to give them only one chance at a life. The lack of anchoring is, again, what reads. Men can feel the difference between a woman whose life will collapse if he does not text and a woman whose life will continue in its own beautiful momentum, regardless of his next move. They lean toward the second one. They cannot help it. This is what neuroception was built to detect. The fourth thing they are doing is, frankly, the simplest, and the one most women find hardest to do. They have stopped trying to be liked. They have not become rude. They have not become cold. They have simply, somewhere inside, set down the project of being approved of and picked up the project of being honest. The result is that they say slightly less. They laugh slightly less at things that are not actually funny. They do not fill silences. They let small disagreements stand. The room reads this as integrity. Integrity is, by some distance, the most magnetic quality a human being can have. It is rarer than beauty, rarer than wit, rarer than warmth. It is the thing the room has been waiting for, and almost nobody is bringing it. I want to add one observation that I have made watching magnetic women in their 30s and 40s. Women who have held this state for a decade or longer. They are not, by and large, women who have read a lot of self-help. They have not done a magnetic woman program. They have not, in most cases, even thought consciously about magnetism. What they have done is one of two things. They have either survived something genuinely difficult, a loss, a divorce, a health scare, a betrayal, which forced them to stop performing because they did not have the energy anymore, and which left them on the other side, naturally inside themselves, because performing had become too expensive. Or they have, from a very early age, simply been allowed to be themselves by the family they grew up in, and never developed the audition reflex in the first place. I tell you this because the modern self-improvement internet would like you to believe that magnetism is a skill you can install in 30 days. It is not. It is a residue. It is what is left after you have either had your audition reflex broken by life or never installed it to begin with. The reverse protocol I am about to give you is not, strictly speaking, a way to acquire magnetism. It is a way to start breaking the audition reflex on purpose, gently, without waiting for a divorce or a diagnosis to do it for you. There is, I should mention, a fifth thing magnetic women are doing that I almost did not include, because it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. They like themselves. That is the whole thing. They like the woman they are, not in an arrogant way, not in a performance way. In the same quiet way you might like a particular old book or a particular friend, a kind of comfortable affection for the person they happen to be. They do not require the room to validate this liking. They have, in some sense, already given themselves the approval they used to be looking for. The room cannot give it. The room can only mirror what is already there. You can tell who has done this work by watching what happens to a woman's face when she catches her own reflection in a shop window. Most women, when they catch their reflection, perform a small involuntary correction. They suck in, they adjust the hair, they sharpen the face. The magnetic woman, when she catches her reflection, does almost nothing. She might glance at it the way you would glance at any object in passing. Then she keeps walking. The lack of the small correction is the entire signal. The room reads it. The room responds. I want to give you a small protocol you can run for 30 days. I am not going to call it a program. I am not going to monetize it. I am giving it to you because I think it works, and I have watched it work on women I know. Day 1 through 7, I want you to do an inventory. For 1 week, when you are in a social or romantic situation, simply notice, internally, when you are in audition energy, when you are in pre-emptive accommodation, when you are validating through achievement, and when you are preloaded with grievance. Do not try to change anything. Just notice. The noticing alone, repeated for a week, begins to interrupt the pattern. You cannot fix what you cannot see. Day 8 through 14, you are going to do a small experiment. In every conversation, take one full breath before you respond. One breath. It will feel artificial for the first 3 days. By the 5th day, you will start to notice that the breath has changed something in your body. Specifically, it has moved you back into your own gravity. You are now responding from inside yourself, rather than from inside the other person's expectation. The breath is the cheapest, fastest, most useful intervention I have ever found. Day 15 through 21, you are going to start practicing small disagreements. Once a day, at minimum, when someone says something you do not actually agree with, do not let it pass. You do not need to argue. You can simply say, "That is interesting, I see it slightly differently." Then go back to your tea. The point of this is not to win the argument. The point is to teach your nervous system that you are allowed to have a different position and to start rebuilding the muscle of presence that has been atrophied by years of agreeable swallowing. Day 22 through 30, you are going to do the hardest part. You are going to spend at least one evening a week alone, in the way I described in the Cool Girl video. No phone, no content, just you and your own attention for 2 or 3 hours. This is where the center rebuilds. The center is what the room reads as gravity. You cannot manufacture gravity by being more impressive. You can only build it by spending time alone with yourself until you are no longer afraid to. By day 30, you will not be magnetic in any new way that other people will name. They will simply, without knowing why, start treating you differently. You will be invited to slightly different rooms. The men you used to want to chase will not seem worth chasing. The men you used to find boring will start to seem interesting. The friends who needed you small will pull away. The friends who liked you full will come closer. Your taste in everything, from clothes to books to wine to men, will sharpen. The reverse protocol is, in the end, just a method for getting your own gravity back. The room responds, the way the room has always responded, to gravity. I want to leave you with one image, because images stay in the body in a way that arguments do not. There is a young woman walking into a coffee shop in the city you live in right now, on a Thursday morning. She is, by every visible measure, ordinary. She is not the most beautiful woman in the room. She is not the most stylish. She is not the most accomplished. She walks to the counter. She orders her coffee. She sits at the table by the window. She is not looking at her phone. She is looking out the window at the small specific scene of the morning, and her face is at rest. Her shoulders are not raised. Her breath is slow. She is, without thinking about it, entirely inside her own life. 3 people in that coffee shop have already noticed her without knowing they noticed her. None of them could explain what is attractive about her. They just feel, somewhere in the body, that they would like to be near her. They would like, perhaps, to ask her what she is reading. They would like to know her name. She has done nothing to invite this. She is not performing for the coffee shop. The performance is, in fact, the precise reason the coffee shop is responding. She has not been trying to be chosen, and so, for the first time, the room can choose her. That woman is, in some quiet form, available to you. She is who you would be at this moment, on a Thursday morning, if you set down the project of being chosen and picked up the project of being present. The setting down is the entire work. There is nothing else to do. There is no harder thing to try. There is no further skill to acquire. There is only the slow surrender of the project that was breaking you in the first place. If you take nothing else from tonight, take this. Stop optimizing for an audience that has never told you what it wants, and that would not, in any case, deliver the prize. Sit in your own life, eat your own meals, notice your own reactions, let the room respond or not. The response was never the point. The point was who you became while you were not waiting for it. One more thing. I want to gently challenge the framing that has been quietly running underneath this whole episode, which is that the goal of all this work is to be more attractive to men. That is not, in the end, what magnetic women are doing. The goal is not to be more attractive. The goal is to be less concerned about being attractive. The attractiveness is a side effect. It is the byproduct of having attended to the actual center of your life, which is your own experience of being alive, rather than the projected image of your life as it might appear to a watching audience. The byproduct is real. The byproduct is delicious, actually, but you cannot pursue it directly. The moment you start pursuing it directly, it inverts, and you are back inside the failure mode we have spent the last 30 minutes naming. So treat this work as work you are doing for yourself, even though you know, in some small private corner, that the men will respond. Treat the response as a thing the universe will hand you when you have stopped asking for it. Treat the asking as the only obstacle that ever stood between you and the version of your life you have been quietly waiting for. The asking is what we are putting down tonight. The version of your life that has been waiting for you to put it down is closer than you think. I will see you on Tuesday. This was the Femme frequency. Sleep well.